On our Mortgage Freedom series today, we're going to interview the McCoy family who partnered together to pay off their mortgage early. And in the 3 years that I've been doing this show, I've never interviewed both parents and kids together, and that's what we're going to do today. Janelle, Jeremy, Jensen, and Miller McCoy are here with me today, and they are from Nixa, Missouri. Janelle works at the local community college, and Jeremy is an assistant principal at the local high school. And Jensen and Miller are currently working their way through 6th and 4th grade. Welcome to the show, McCoys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. So, Janelle, can you tell me, why did you decide to pay off your mortgage in the first place?
Yeah, so we actually started our debt payoff. We tried to start it about 8 years ago. And we read Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. We decided that we were going to start paying off debt. And we got crazy. We sold both of our vehicles and we were all on board. And then we started having vehicle trouble. And then we decided, oh, we need a new car. And so then we ended up getting a new car, and then it just kind of spiraled. And then we had another car payment and we failed miserably. So we kind of just skated through for a couple of years and then decided about 3.5 years ago that we were going to get really serious and start paying off everything. And so we started with our cars. We had, both of us had car payments. We both had student loan payments. We had a little bit of credit card debt, not a ton. But we started and we just started snowballing it, like the baby steps say. And once we got through that, I won't say it was easy, but it was like we had that momentum. And so we didn't want to stop. So we were like, we have gone this far. We might as well just keep hammering down and we might as well just get this mortgage paid off and then never have to worry about having a house payment again.
I love it. So 8 years ago, Jeremy, when this came up, was this something that you were down with, or was this something that took a little bit of convincing, or did you come up with the idea? How did that all work?
Janelle came up with the idea. She kind of came to me and said, hey, I want to be debt free. I don't want to have to worry about money. She did a lot of homework and she had to convince me, but I was on board the whole time. And she did a lot of homework and she did have to convince me, but I was on board.
Yeah. So how did those conversations go, though, when there was a little bit of convincing happening? Because there's a lot of couples that are out there that are saying, well, I'd really love to get debt-free or really love to pay off my mortgage, but I just can't bring my spouse along. So what did she do, Jeremy, to kind of get you going?
We were just like any other young couple. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and everybody's got new cars and everybody's getting good jobs. And, we talked about how we both grew up and money wasn't a huge issue, but it was an issue. And we didn't want to have our kids deal with that. And we didn't want to have to deal with that the rest of our lives. So, once she said, hey, we could have no payments and we could have money for retirement and we could have a good life together once our kids leave the house, I jumped on board.
I love it. Sounds like a convincing argument. That's good. That's very cool. So, Janelle, you mentioned 3.5 years ago, something snapped and you said, let's do this again. What happened? What was the moment you said, let's do this?
I listened to a lot of podcasts and kind of continued that through even after we started and kind of went through that failure period of listening to Dave Ramsey. And I just got to the point where I was like, I want us to be able to do whatever we want, whether that be in our careers, whether that be vacations or what have you. And we got to that point where I was like, we're going to do this. And Jeremy is very on board with anything. He's like, I could probably come home and say, let's travel the world for a year. And he'd be like, okay, if you want to do that. We have a great relationship when it comes to that. And so that support from him and just kind of wanting to make sure that we set our lives up for our kids to have good lives and, be able to help them with college and do everything that we want to do. We knew that that was something that we really needed to do.
That's very cool. So, Miller, can I ask you a question, buddy? So,
Yeah.
What did you think when Mom and Dad said, "Hey, we're gonna pay off all our debt and pay off our mortgage"? Did you like that idea? Did anything change in the house?
I liked it because I've never seen anybody do it before.
Yeah. So when they said that, and you've never seen anybody do that before, did that seem like an exciting thing to do, or did it seem like, oh, what does this mean? Did they have to explain it to you?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So when we started paying the mortgage off, we made a chart and we put it up on the refrigerator. And so every time we would make a payment, the kids would get to color the squares in on the house. So we kept it, of
Oh,
course.
awesome.
So the kids were very involved with the process, and it was funny. It almost became like, so each one of our squares is worth $193. And it was like total change in their mentality as far as like, oh, well, if we don't buy that, then we could color in a square. So it was just kind of a funny, see how their mind worked with it. I think one time we always let the kids, if we sell anything that they had gotten like for their birthdays or what have you, we let them keep the money and do whatever they want with it, either put it in their savings account or if there's something else that they're wanting to buy. And so at one point, Jensen had sold some gymnastics bars and she got $200, and Miller was like, you could give that to mom and you could color in a square. And so it was funny how their minds changed and how they started thinking about money as well.
I absolutely love that. Talk about family collaboration, getting everybody in on it. Very cool. Jensen, so when you had the opportunity to go through this process, talk to me about what it was like to color in these squares. Was it fun?
Yeah, it was like you were just coloring something, but it's like you achieved something, and it really felt good that you got to be a part of something good that your parents were doing.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. That's very cool. So let's talk about some of the details, because we love this story. We want to know how you did it, right? We just talked about at the top of the show that you guys are educators, right? So you're working at a technical community college and you're working as a principal. These aren't, gigantic six-figure careers. So let's talk about how did you guys increase your income during this time to pay off the mortgage?
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I got my real estate license, and we decided that we were going to start flipping houses. And we've really kind of eased into it. We've only done about one a year, but it's provided enough income to help take a big chunk and throw it at the mortgage at one time, and throw it at the debt at one time. And then also with me getting my real estate license, I have done some side real estate as well and had a couple of pretty successful years. One year actually making more than my annual income at the college. So that was very, very helpful. And then really just the flipping and the real estate is kind of where we have made our extra money. And at the beginning, we just got to where we were just taking that extra income and we weren't really we had so many bills that we didn't have enough of our regular income to throw at that. We just had a little bit. And so every time I would get a real estate commission check, we would just throw it down at our debt. And then we just kept snowballing it until now we're to the point where towards the end of our mortgage payoff, we didn't even use any of our real estate money. It was just the money that from our paychecks, from our regular jobs that we were using to put down on the mortgage. So now it's, having that extra money has been great because, we've been able to invest in some retirement. This is the first year we've been able to fully fund our Roth IRAs. So we're just dipping our feet into that. We just paid our house off in July. So we've only had a couple of months now to kind of see how that goes. And the first month we decided to book a cruise. So that first month we just used the extra money that we had to do that. But now we're kind of getting into putting it into retirement and doing all of the things that we had really wanted to do with our money.
I love it. That's awesome. So the hustle we talked about, that's incredible. Obviously you're going above and beyond what you're currently doing. Talk to me about as a mother, as a husband, how you guys worked your schedule so that it wasn't overwhelming, because you got a full-time job, you got two beautiful children, and you got a marriage you want to hold on to, right? So how did you guys balance that? I know balance is a tough word, right, in the reality of young parenthood, but how did you manage that? How did you manage your schedule and still get through this process?
Yeah, so we had parent-teacher conferences the other day, and Miller's teacher was telling us that he had told her he didn't have time to do an assignment because he spends every single night at Lowe's. So while we were flipping houses, the majority of our nights were spent either at Lowe's or at the house. And the kids always came with us, and we made it a family thing. And the kids would either play in the yard or one of the last houses that we flipped, we when we bought the house, it had a trampoline there, and so the kids were like, okay. So we would work on the house, and they would play out on the trampoline at night, and so they have been through all of it. They've been at every house, and they've helped, they've painted, they've done everything. And so that's one thing that I would suggest, that if you can make your whole entire family and your kids part of that side hustle and earning that extra income, it kind of releases that guilt of not being able to spend that time with them.
That is genius. I love that so much. And it's not like, hey, I got a babysitter and they're back at home and they're not with us and we're spending a bunch of money on the babysitter so I can do my side hustle. I love that. That's great. So Jensen, when you guys were doing these house flips and you guys were on site with Mom, was it fun? Did you have a good time doing it?
Yeah, I think it was cool because we got to feel like we were a part of what our parents have accomplished, and it wasn't just like, look what my parents did. It was like, look what me and my parents did, instead of sitting back and watching them do all the work.
That's incredible. And then Miller, I know your teacher wanted you to do your homework, but did you tell him what you learned at Lowe's? I mean, was that extra credit?
No.
They didn't give you extra credit for that. I mean, talk about an education, right? I mean, if you're going to learn how to grow your income and do something incredible, that's good homework to do. So how much did you actually pay off?
A little bit over $255,000.
Woo! That's awesome. And then how long did that take you?
It took us 38 months. 38 months. Once we finally decided to get real serious and start paying it down.
How much of the 255 was the mortgage? For
the first year and a half, we were just paying down the debt. Mm-hmm. And then by the time we got to the mortgage, we owed $107,000 on the house.
Wow.
So, and then that last year, I think we started in December of 2017 when we started really working towards paying off the house. And so it took us about a year and a half to get that finished.
So about a year and a half to crush the $107,000.
Yes. Yeah.
That is some awesome side hustling. Way to go.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's very cool.
That's
very cool. Okay, so let's talk about the fun stuff. So you paid it off in July. How did you guys celebrate?
So we every year we have a big 4th of July family party. And so to help pay off our mortgage, that last little bit, we had a rental property that we decided that we wanted to sell. We didn't have a ton of equity in it, but we had just enough that when we sold it, we were able to pay off the remaining that we had left on our mortgage. And so we were like, oh my gosh, how awesome would this be to be able to do this right on Independence Day and say, like, we've earned our freedom, you know? And so as soon as the bank opened on July 5th, that's whenever we wanted to pay it. But we had our big family 4th of July party on the 4th. And so it was really cool because we were like, we knew the very next day we were going in, we were closing on that rental property, and we were going to be able to go in and pay off that mortgage. And it was kind of funny because, that we have been just working so hard on this that we kind of had this like idea in our mind of like, this was going to be like so awesome. And, like we would walk into the bank and like confetti would drop down as we handed the check for the payment. And it was like, we went in and we're like, okay. And then we're all just kind of like, okay.
Right.
And then she was like, oh, congratulations, you paid off your mortgage. We were like, yay. So it was kind of funny because we were, we had it so hyped up in our head of like, we have just worked so hard for this, but
it's like the most exciting anticlimactic thing you can do, right? It's like, yeah, okay, we're done, right? Yeah. Can I get some free suckers at the bank? There we go.
Yeah. So, but the kids came in with us and we all did it together. So that was really cool.
That's cool. Very cool. So Miller, are you excited about this cruise that you guys are going to go on?
Yes.
Yes. What are you guys doing on that cruise? Where are you going?
Eating a lot of food.
Eating a lot of food. Awesome. Do you know where the boat is going?
We're going to the Bahamas.
Awesome. So sunshine, awesome food, and good times with your parents. Are you excited about it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.